Sam, thank you so much for making time for us. We do appreciate it. It's great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yes, well, we love having you here, and we wanted to start off by paying you a compliment because the one thing that Ben and I appreciate more than anything, it's a very nice, short 84-minute runtime in a movie. It doesn't happen very often, and we love it. So thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. I feel like it's like what they're doing in theatre now, where you go, "How long's the show?" And they're like 70 minutes straight through. You're like, "Oh, dream, dream."
We pay for a night out. Just keep it short.
So keep sure. You're in the bar by 9 o'clock. You're like, "Great, yeah."
That's right. So I want to kick it off by just asking you for an elevator pitch for The Drown. Like, how would you pitch it to somebody that's never heard of it before?
Oh God, that's tough because I haven't done this for ages. Gosh, an elevator pitch. Okay, it's about a group of people that have committed a heist and they've stolen a piece of artwork, a famous piece of artwork, and they've all split up and to reconvene at a safe house on a house by the sea. And the aim is that once they're there and they get rid of all their tech and everything, they're going to get a boat over to the mainland the next day and step into their fortunes and try and sell it on the black market. And but when they get to the house, they don't realize that something slightly darker might be lurking at the water's edge that might not be as linear as they thought. And their first accomplice, who should be there, is missing with a blood trail going into the water. And rather than talk about it, our lead character covers it up, but not knowing if it's more supernatural or not.
Excellent. Well done, sir. Well done. Put that on the back of the DVD.
Don't, yeah, don't. I could do much better on that. If you told me before, I'd be like, "Oh, I'll go back to my notes." That's terrible, isn't it?
This is always, I do a lot of EPK work as part of my
Yeah,
day job. And the hardest question whenever asking writers, directors, and cast and crew is, what is the film about? Uh, uh,
it's hard. I mean, sometimes it's easier, but this one is because you don't want to like.
yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, so
Yeah,
you've got to skirt around it about what you're talking about. So it's always a challenge, I think that part. And when you
100%.
write a script, you never write a script going, "Oh, I'm writing it for the log line or the tagline." Do you know what I mean? That's always afterwards. You're like, "Oh God, okay, I've got to condense this into something that's manageable and
Where
understandable."
did the origin, where did the seed of the movie come from?
Well, a couple of things. One was a absolute necessity to make a feature because I thought I was going to go mad, and we've been talking about making one for a long time. And so it was massively born out of a desire to do it, and necessity. I felt like for my sanity. Um, and we were going to make another film that we are in production, sort of in early pre-production for right now, and it's that film was is based on my father's play that I adapted over COVID, and we were looking at maybe trying to shoot it in the UK because it's set in Provence, and we thought we'd never travel again, so we went up and down the country, and we just couldn't quite find what we wanted,
I was
and
going to
so
say,
the film.
it was easy to find a Provence-like place.
Absolutely not. That's That's completely why it fell apart. But I booked off this time to make it, and so I suddenly had time off that I'd booked. So I thought, well, I better do something with my time. And my partner said, why don't you write something else? And I was quite inspired actually by how my father, who was a writer, how he started. He started in a way where they for these studio owners called the Danziger brothers in the sort of early 60s, and they would buy sets from other movies, and then they would say, right, you've got the Old Bailey of Victorian Street and a submarine. You've got to write a movie with those three locations. And so I thought, well, that would be easier to do because then at least I know how I'm going to shoot it. And I remember Dominic, who's in the movie, he socially had mentioned this house that he stayed at when he was younger, and he was terrified of it. And when he'd stay there, he'd sleep in his car because he hated being in it. And I was like, great, where's that? And he told me. And then the next day, uh, I went to um, I went to Reckitt in Suffolk, where it is, and I went with a couple of my teammates, my DP and everything, and we just went and photographed everything and videoed everything, and then I wrote the film to the location. So I had a kernel of the idea of that it was a team that had pulled off a heist. At that point, I hadn't worked out what the heist would be. What had they stolen? We went through a lot of variety of different things. Um, but I knew I wanted to do something that tackled sort of an ancient myth, because I feel
Mhm.
like I grew up on those stories, and I felt like it was interesting to try and tackle a modern version of that myth. Um, and so that was the sort of the seed of the idea, and then it was totally sealed when I was working. I was sort of working out what could it be, what's the MacGuffin that they've stolen, and we were thinking about lots of different things, and it was funny in my mum's bathroom. At home, which has been there my entire natural life, in a little mirror in a mural is the painting, and I won't say what it is
Mhm.
in case of spoilers, but it was in the mural, and it was like it was staring at me, going, "I've been here the whole time." And what was amazing is that even though I was looking at the mythology of the story, um, the painting is the story of the movie,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
retold. And so that happened. It felt like total serendipity that it kind of came together. So that was they were the sort of the elements that kind of, and then that's when it just flew out of me from there.
And the best thing about myths I found is that they've just fallen out of copyright, so you can use them to your
Oh,
heart's content.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. A
don't have one.
75-year period.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the location you shot at is it's a really unique looking beach. I think firstly, one thing us Aussies would notice about it is no sand between the
No,
stones.
it's a pebble, like a
Yeah,
pebble beach,
we don't have that down here.
rock beach.
No, and I can tell you, carrying kit up and down on a shingle beach is not fun. I mean, we all lost a lot of weight doing that. It was no, it was full on. But yeah, no, it's an amazing location, and I didn't realize at the time until we got there that it has been used in some films before. Most famously in the movie Yesterday. I don't know if you've seen that film
Yep.
Yesterday
Yeah,
with the
Dave Boyle.
Beatles.
Yep.
It's where I think near the end of the film where he goes to see John Lennon,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
John Lennon's living. It's the same
It's
house.
that house. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
No Robert
I didn't know
Carlyle.
that at the
yeah, yeah.
time. And I was like, well, if it's good enough for Danny Boyle, it's good enough for me. So,
It's
um,
like it's such a long way from the shoreline to the house. Like it gives you such depth to work with. But I was going to ask you about the difficulties with that bloody pebble stuff. Like it's horrible.
well,
It
the
makes a good
difficulty,
sound.
yeah, well, I mean, it does, but it's a nightmare for sound,
Yeah.
obviously, because when the crew are moving, it's really, really tough. So we had to try and put blankets and things down, and when we had a bit of steady cam work there, we it was really hard for the steady cam operator to maneuver. So we had to go and get a load of chicken wire and put it underneath it, so you've got a flat surface that you can walk on. But yeah, the beach, that's I think that's what was so alluring about it, is that it had this house sort of like, stuffed into the shingle beach, nothing around it for a great distance. We did a little bit of clear up, digitally, to make it feel a bit more isolated than it is. And then it had this sort of lagoon, which what we called like the prisoned sea, which I thought that's fantastic. What an interesting thing. And then you've got down to the beach, and obviously every night, obviously the tide comes in and all that stuff, so it got closer, and that kind of thing. But going up and down that, the difficulty that we had was that we it very quickly became night shoots, of having obviously seen the film. Most of it is over one evening, but it was in summer, so we would start and we'd have to black out all the windows and start inside.
Mhm.
And then when it got properly dark around sort of midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, then we would move everything outside and go to the water's edge and to the beach and do everything in the dark. And then when the light started coming back, we'd have to come back in. So there was always like a unit move every day. Do you know what I mean? To make use of the darkness. And so we had to, because we had a very limited window at the house. We only had 7 days to shoot there, which was
Wow.
incredibly tight. And that was just because when I decided to make it, that was in sort of May the 4th, I think, it was when the idea came for it. And then we were shooting by the 1st of August.
Yeah,
And they
right.
said, well, they just said, we've got this is the time we've got. So we booked it and then we had a goalpost to aim for. So
Oh.
it was incredibly quick as a turnaround, but it sort of, in a way, it was good because it forced everything to sort of move rather
Mhm.
than waiting for things. I mean, we were sort of, it was that if you book them, they will come. Type,
Did you shoot? Was the interiors shot in the house as well, or is that in a
yeah.
different?
It's
So the
all
whole
on
thing.
location. The whole film, apart from, I mean, we were very lucky. Ramaz Studios, who they were producers on the film. They are a studio that have a virtual production screen, so we were able to use that for the film. So there's quite a bit of virtual production in the movie to help make the scale feel a little bit better, because lighting around the sea is very, very difficult when you've got a limited budget. So actually, those days when we were in the virtual production studio um, were were the nice days because we could do more than about two takes because we had a bit more time. But at the house, it was like, you were lucky if you were at take three, you were like, wow, okay, well, that's luxurious because we had to move so quickly. We had to get 8 pages in a day, so it was a lot to cover in every day.
Yeah. I find a lot of filmmakers that work in genre films are very proud to be horror fans, and they like to borrow from other people. I'm just wondering, did you have any other films that influenced what you were doing?
Oh yeah, I mean, gosh, I mean, I mean, Evil Dead, obviously. If you've seen the film, particularly Evil Dead 2, because when we started the film, I didn't realize like we have this sequence, obviously, where we extend it a little bit, but originally we had him just coming through the tunnel through the car, and that's the opening of Evil Dead 2, and I hadn't actually clocked that until I went back and looked at it. I went, God, subconsciously, that must have lodged itself in my brain as like this, but also that I suppose, device of traveling somewhere over a period of time, it was a bit like the opening of The Shining as well, where you're slowly building the audience into a total, you know, world of isolation by showing the terrain of where you're traveling to. And I think that's something that sort of, I know that we live in a world which is so fast in terms of editing now, and it's so sort of, everything's just so quick. So I really wanted to do something which started slower and just slowly sped up as the film continued. It just gets faster and faster and faster. Um, but yeah, so I would say the Evil Dead, The Shining, a movie that I loved, which isn't horror, but I think it's fantastic, is Blue Ruin. Jeremy
Mhm.
Strong as Blue
Yeah.
Ruin,
Yes.
because that has like a good 35-minute opening or something of no dialogue, and I think that that's where, that's great cinema, is when that's the only thing you can do on film. You can't do that the same way on stage or anything else. Like, it's where it's picture and sound, and it's, you're following a character doing something or going through a problem or behaving, and I think that's always intriguing to find out what are they doing. So those three were definitely sort of the top of the list. There were others going through it, but yeah, I would say that, I mean, I think The Shining, obviously,
Yep.
there's lots of films, but yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, there was a bit of Reservoir Dogs about it, a little bit, I suppose. So it's sort of blending genre a little bit.
Great
So
answer. Great answer. I love that you're not full of shit, because I asked that question and some people say, "Oh, look, no, I know it's all original." I was like, "Come on, pull the other one."
no, it's not. Well, the thing is, even if it is, you can't help but being influenced,
Yeah, by
by
something.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And
that's I find it
sorry.
super frustrating though when you're like when you're like, I've come up with this great idea, and then you watch you watch Evil Dead 2 and you're like, oh,
That's where I go, "What a great idea. This wasn't my
Yeah,
great idea."
but
exactly.
then you
Yeah.
find out that they ripped it off from some Henry Hathaway Western from
The
the
best films
the
do.
50s or so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what's interesting, isn't it? Is when you go, well, that's what I try and do is go back to sort of the first film that did the thing, as it
Mm.
were, and see why they used it and how it was used, whether it's a film from the 20s or 30s or 40s or whatever it is, and you go, and it really makes sense. And maybe now it's become cliched, but when it was done, it wasn't at all. It was it was very new and innovative, and why it was done, psychologically with the camera work, or a character's, to help a character's sort of psychological journey,
Mhm.
or their
yeah.
motivation, or whatever you call it. So yeah, it's but you can't not be influenced.
Well, that's it. And it's my favorite, and I'm sure it's not a West Wing quote, but for me, it is a West Wing quote when he says that good writers borrow from other writers, great writers steal outright.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Yeah, I mean, even as an actor, like, because I trained as an actor for a long time, and I worked as an actor for like 20 years. You hear wonderful performances or how someone delivers something, and there's just a cadence to it, and you're doing a completely different piece of work, but you're like, oh, that sort of that fits here, and you're doing your Peter O'Toole or your Anthony Hopkins or whatever it is. You're doing your little, I don't know, Harrison Ford, but no one knows that's what you're doing. It's sort of
Yeah.
embedded in there, but obviously you're influenced by what you've seen.
I know that you've worked on lots of things over the years. You've directed shorts and whatnot, but I'm wondering, as a first time feature, were there any unexpected difficulties that arose that you didn't comprehend would happen?
All of it. No, um, no, it is a very different beast from doing a short to a feature, just because there's so many more things, not just while you're shooting it, like I suppose the resilience that you've got to do every day. You've got long days every day, and you've got to prepare and all that kind of stuff. But it's all the stuff afterwards, as because you are a short, you might be lucky if you sell a short, but you're really making a short as a calling card. Whereas a feature, you've got so much that you've got to provide, an insurance and paperwork and tax credits and deliverables and all these things that you don't really know about. That, I mean, you know about, but until you've done them, you don't really understand what that means. But the so in the post side, all of it has been a huge learning curve. But in the making of it, as I said, the 7 days thing was very,
Mm.
very difficult. And on day one, when we turned up and when we hired the house, that sort of prison bit of water, um, which is lovely, where he finds the art tube at the beginning and all that stuff. When we turned up on day one, there were like 150 holiday makers around that, like kids, with picnics and paddle boards. And I was like, oh my God. And the house, they own that piece of land so they just allow the public to go there. But, our first and second ADs had to very, nicely try and go around and tell them could they move on because we've got a film, and they were having absolutely none of it. And I genuinely on day one went, we're never going to do this.
I'm on
How are we
vacation.
going to do it? Yeah, it was that, yeah. And so we had to shoot every direction except that direction until they kind of left. And then every day would be the same because it's in the middle of nowhere. Even if we put filming up, they wouldn't care because they've been going there for years. They'd turn up. And so we had the same every single day. We had to deal with, breaking the hearts of holidaymakers. But most of them were like, I've been coming here for years. I'm going to stay here. So you're like, okay. So we had to just, even though we paid for it, I felt like, let's just shoot around it. So I think filmmaking is just problem solving.
I'm sure
Genuinely.
you're allowed to film people in public. You should have filmed them and then like saved it for later and just put them in a movie later down the track.
That's true. I should have done that. Yeah. I don't think
Just
we had
film
time. I
them.
think we had to shoot, but I would have absolutely.
And the movie can be like, annoying holiday makers or something like that. Like
Yeah.
assholes.
Just murder them.
Yeah.
Make us like a. This is great special effects, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad vacation. Yeah.
So what's a takeaway from this that you would apply to the next film? Like,
I think. Well, I mean, look. I think whenever I talk to anyone that's made features and everything, and first time, depending on what budgets and things they're working at, I feel like time has and modern filmmaking, we're shooting things faster, I think, than,
uh
than than people used to do because you can't afford to be doing it longer, and films are worth not as much as they used to be, so you've got to do it faster. So I think planning, I mean, we planned as best as we could, but because we're talking from May the 4th to, and we did a weekend shoot in July, the 1st of July. That's such a quick turnaround. So the next one, I mean, I am preparing as much as I possibly can and storyboarding because we didn't have time to storyboard. So we shot listed everything, but I couldn't storyboard. And I think storyboards are great, but they're not. Um, I think they're a guide, but they're not
mhm.
like set in stone for me. I'm not there to just shoot the storyboard because I think that what the performers bring, what the actors bring, and when you're there on the day and suddenly it's a 3D environment, you rehearse the scene, you're like, oh my God, no, actually the scene is from here. This is, or
Mhm.
this is what the scene's about. I thought it was this, or it's this. Or, you have to be open to be adaptable. So I think that a takeaway is I think maybe having a bit more time for preparation on things. And uh yeah, I suppose having a little bit of foresight, because we knew that we were probably going to do some reshoots,
Mm.
or not reshoot, but pickup, like not even
Yeah,
reshoot,
yeah.
sorry, pickup days. So we'd sort of scheduled a few later on in the year, but I will probably budget that in advance, because I think that that's really sensible, because you shoot some stuff and then you get into the edit, and luckily my brother's the editor and he was on set, so he can kind of say, you know, can you pick this up or whatever?
Mhm.
Because I don't think
Yeah.
I've got this, because he's editing as we go. But I think that having you know, a bit of contingency pickup day at the end or something is really, really helpful, because you can see what you missed, or you know, what might not even what you missed actually, because now you put it together, you go, this might make it better if we have this.
Yeah.
Because I think film is a complete flexible medium. It's always moving, you know, whether this, it's not like theatre where you're following the script and you never change, you don't change a comma usually, but I mean in you know, in on film, everything is movable and changeable, you know, all the time, you know. I mean, I find it amazing how the Mission Impossible films sort of start almost with no script and just,
Yeah.
you know, and they're rewriting it as they're going, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
unbelievable, but you know.
Like we know the stunts. We know the stunts. And
Yeah.
we just figure out
Well,
how we
that's how
get
they
between
start,
them.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's how they start, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
actually, Alan Calton, who plays Eric in the film, he was in the final Mission Impossible,
Mhm.
and we had to battle to get him out of that for this, and it was obviously during sort of the opening, you know, when COVID was sort of still very much rife, but you know, the world had opened up a little bit, so we're all masked and all that stuff, and distancing, and couldn't be near each other and all that. So you had all that to contend with, plus trying to get, you know, Paramount to allow him out for a few days to do our film. You know, but he was saying on that, you know, it's you know, he was on it for a long time because he didn't know when they were going to be used or not, or because they were changing things so regularly.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing. I'm glad that you're continuing on, because I thought, like, you were like, well, after that, I'm going to go back to being an actor because I missed my trailer, and just hanging around like oh, I'm so bored. I'm just sitting here for hours waiting to be on to get called. Nothing to do, and then you're like, well, on the other side, there's a guy pulling his hair out. It's trying to do so much in a
Yeah.
short period of time.
Yeah, I suppose directing the film has given you a greater appreciation from an acting perspective as to what, you know, the director needs from you.
Yeah, I mean, that part, the acting part is probably where I feel most comfortable working with a bunch of actors, because I've been there, and I know, you know, like, I think sometimes I think it's when I heard Spielberg say it, I felt a lot better when he said, sometimes I think that my favorite moment is when everyone turns to me and goes, Stephen, what's next? And he's like, I have absolutely no idea, but we'll find it.
Yeah.
And I feel that way quite a bit, because sometimes the story, I think, tells you what it needs to be. I mean, when I'm directing a play as well, you have an idea for a vision, but you're investigating. You're basically testing the material, and you're testing what works or doesn't work, and you're going down all these different paths and trying to find what's the right, you know, your you know, your golden brick road, your yellow brick road. You know, you're trying to find that. And so I've always got an enormous appreciation for actors, and because I know what I'm asking. So if you're asking actors to be out in the cold, in the water, you know, I know what that feels like, and it's tough. It's not pleasant when you're trying it, because you end up being like, I'm just cold and I'm not really thinking about my acting anymore. I'm just like, I am so cold I can't really think about anything else.
Yeah.
So it's trying to limit everyone's, you know, I don't know, uncomfortableness, I suppose. But yeah, I love working with the actors, because it's sort of they come. I mean, everyone comes with ideas, and I think that they're the ones up there doing it, and they want to make sure it feels as real and connected as possible. So it's, you know, you've got to listen to them as well, and you find sort of happy medium. I think it's when you're like, it's this, and you come here and stand here, that's probably when you get problems, because, you know, actors like logic. They like to go, well, why would I do that? Why do I, if you can't tell me why I'm doing this, if there's not a reason why, then we're going to have a problem. So you've got to try and find, you know, I think something based in some form of logic, or a reason why. What's your previous circumstances? Why are we doing this? So,
Yep.
so the most asked question is why. I think you have to be
Yeah.
prepared
Because I
to
said
answer
so.
why.
That's right.
Because I said so. That's the parental answer.
I said so. Move on. Yeah.
Move on.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Well,
sometimes you have to go, look, I need you to be here for this. I could spend hours talking to you about why in the edit, but just trust me, this is what I need you to come
Yep.
here and turn this
Yeah.
in, because otherwise, you know.
Look, we won't keep you for much longer, but before I let you run, I wanted to pivot for a second and ask you a question that benefits us more than anything. And I know you've produced and directed, I believe, a lot of podcasts, but I think you're the first podcast director that we've ever had on the show. I want to know, are there any pet peeves that you have when you listen to other podcasts?
God, that's a good question.
Take note, Ben. Take note.
Yeah, take note.
I thought you were going to ask, do I look fat in this? But this is thoroughly. We know the answer to that.
No, you guys are great. You know what you're doing. You're professionals. It's brilliant. No, I think trying to keep the conversation flowing. I suppose it's when I suppose veers off into something that's not really interesting and becomes about your
He loves a good tangent. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
no, but if it's related, I think if it's related,
never related. It's
never related.
In 1986, I ate this bad pickle. And it was sick.
Hey, unless you're a great raconteur and you have great stories, which some obviously do.
I'll give him that. Oh, you are that, sir.
Well, there you go. I mean, the truth is there are no rules, are there? You keep, people break them, and then we go, oh, that's amazing. So it
becomes the new standard, doesn't it? Yeah. We had to set a standard, but
yeah. No standard.
We certainly followed any. Mate, thank you so much for making time for us. Really appreciate it. The movie's now streaming on digital platforms, I believe. Can be seen by all, and we hope everyone goes and checks it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on here, and I look forward to hearing people's opinions about it, because I made something that was left a little bit of ambiguity. So hopefully it would start a conversation. So I look forward to hearing what people think about it.
Gotta hand it to her, it's remote. Creepy, but remote.
Have you seen her?
Your mom's not here.
We're not sure, but the painting's here. I'm gonna be honest, I think she's gone now.
Gone?
Where?
I'm just wondering why I was in the bedroom 1 minute and out there the next.
Let's just not jump to any conclusions and stick to our plan. There's 40 million quid in here.
Hey, what happened? 3 girls washed up on the beach or something.
How do you guys know each other?
John and I work together, and they are brothers.
Wait, what are we gonna say we're doing here?
Bachelor party?
I hope you weren't planning your truths enough.
That would be cheating. And you know what we do to cheaters.
It's happening again.
What are you looking for?
What happened? It's her bracelet. She's dead.
Who are you and what the fuck are you really doing here?
We lost time.
Would you mind if I stayed with you? Your brother kind of gives me the creeps.
What did you decide to have your party here?
So no one could ever find us.
What have you